There we are, yes.
Right, okay. So, Neville, thank you very much for speaking to me again.
You're very welcome.
So, we did speak a few weeks ago now. You very kindly allowed me to interview you specifically about mental health, which was a really interesting conversation. I think it's gone down very well with the podcast, actually. But I think out of that, it kind of set off a few other extensions to what we were talking about, and specifically about
the shop. Yes.
And postnatal depression as well.
Yes.
And which falls quite nicely because I'm wanting to do something specifically about postnatal depression. I'm talking to various different people.
I remember now. It reminded me of a few.
That's right.
Things.
That's
over
right.
30 odd years.
Yes. Suddenly it all comes flowing out, doesn't it?
Yes, it did. Yes. Yeah. Right. Okay. I'm with you now.
Okay.
Good.
So postnatal depression. I think what we were talking about, or what we communicated about, sort of from that conversation, was the fact that in the shop, a lot of women, obviously, because of the very nature of having babies, they were coming in showing various signs and manifesting various signs of postnatal depression. So that was something that you felt it was important to handle.
Very important, and I hope you're going to have a lot of ladies on giving their side, because I feel kind of inadequate to match what the ladies have got to say. But we didn't realise for a start in 1977 what was going on, although my wife had a baby. And she'd had a baby in 1971. So we should have, I suppose, known. But as time went on, there was obviously a lot more customers and a lot more of this showed itself. And so we started to train our staff when we probably had 15 to 20 staff. Then it started to kick in, because some of the staff left, and that's when we realised that training was needed. So we couldn't do anything about people coming in with a problem. So all we could do was train our staff to recognise that if they were in the firing line, it wasn't personal, and we had to train them to say it's not you who's I know you are getting the abuse that you think you are, but you have to put yourself into another person, the third person, and back away in your mind and realise there is a problem, and this person is not shouting or screaming or swearing at you personally. You are doing your job right, and you're a valued member of staff, and you shouldn't be taking it personally. Now that's all right saying that, but it's another matter when you're faced with an onslaught of abuse. So then we had to rearrange things so we wouldn't let new people, everybody had a buddy, but the buddy wouldn't let the new person in the firing line if something erupted. So they would keep them at arm's length, so they could watch, but they couldn't take part. And so it didn't affect them so much. But it does, it affects all the staff. When you've got one person who's upset for very little reason, then it affects the whole of the staff for that day. It does, it upsets them. So we started to train them, and then the people who knew about this problem, which were the ladies that we employed, and my wife obviously, and they took over because they'd probably been in that situation previously with their, when they had children. So they had an understanding of what was going on
Mm.
and could talk to the person in a normal, what I say, normal way.
Empathetic.
With a, they had empathy,
Mm.
but they understood both sides
Mm.
of the equation.
So the training was more in terms of stepping away from the conflict and
Only for the younger people
Yeah.
who'd never had children, or the other people had come in and was training and had been there for a couple of months or whatever. And some people can't handle aggression, and they would just sooner walk, and we would be one member of staff.
Do you feel that you got because you're of the nature of the business that you were doing? Do you feel that kind of emotional distress came into the shop more than would normally happen? Or?
I think so.
Yeah.
I really do. I think the goods that we were selling kind of was in the first line of the problem, and we used to say whether it's right or wrong. I'm talking about 30 years ago. Whether it's right or wrong now in saying this, but we used to train the staff and say, at some point, you will be faced with a customer, and you've got to realise this could be you at some point in your life, and the only way we could describe it was this person would come in and they would be temporarily insane. And that's how we said, it's not you that's got a problem, it's not them that's got a real problem, because they will get over it and they will come in and they'll be a normal customer maybe in another 6 months or a year or whatever. And so you'll see that customer. It won't be a one-off conflict, or it won't be a one-off engagement with the customer. So realise that at the moment there's something going on which is temporary, and that shouldn't affect our arrangements with them for the rest of their life. You know? So we could understand. And we've had people come in 2 years after the conflict and apologise and say, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm sorry I blew up and I shouted and screamed at everybody, but I apologise and I don't know what happened.
So there were some quite horrendous experiences.
Oh, horrendous! Yeah, because we had thousands of customers. We sold 1,000 car seats a week, 1,000 push chairs, 1,000 prams, 1,000 cots, and so therefore you've got a lot of customers, and it was really peculiar because people would buy a Marmot or a Restmore Silver Cross pram with big wheels, and all of a sudden they would come in and say the wheel's wonky, and you go, but the tolerance is 2 millimetres, whatever, 2 centimetres either way, and that's how they work, and they're not like and they was thinking it should be true like a bicycle wheel, but of course you couldn't tighten them up or couldn't loosen them. There was welded, and that's what it was. So to somebody who would push a pram, they wouldn't take any notice of it, but all of a sudden this became such a big issue. So how we got over that, and many things, and I'll explain a few things, because I'm obviously, this is coming back to me now, I've not thought about this until you've just come. So it's quite serious for me to have remembered all this. But when we made the guarantee out, it seemed like every few months we would remake our guarantee and add things that's happened in the last 6 months to cure the problems. So every time we demonstrated one of those prams, we used to, just as the person that was buying it and we was making the guarantee out, we'd say, oh, just by the way, and we'd lift the pram up on one side and spin the wheel, and it would be going kind of, it wouldn't be true. None of them are true. So there would be a little wobble on it, and we'd go, you see that wobble? That's normal. And they go, oh, right, okay, thanks very much for telling us. And that cured that problem.
Okay.
Because if they ever brought it back, we'd say, do you remember when whoever demonstrated it to you, because we was all singing off the same hymn book and everybody was trained exactly in the same way, and they'd say, oh yes, she did or he did, tell us. And then we would point to the guarantee, no, number 56 on the list of 100. Wheels, large wheels, they will not be true. There's a tolerance on them.
Yeah.
And so this is how we got over this. And we used to have lots of people come back and screaming and shouting about cots. What's the matter? Well, it's got knots in it. So it's like, well, it is a bit of wood, And so we used to put signs on it saying, this is not spelt not as in wood. This is not a manufactured piece of wood. It is a tree. And so you will get a lot of knots in it. And especially there's some cots which was better than others but caused the problems. So again, we would point out, just as when they're writing the guarantee, was, oh, do you see those knots? And they go, yes. Oh yeah, I see them now. Well, don't be surprised if you have 20 or 30 in the whole cot.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, why are you telling me that? And go, just so you understand, because all the problems we had, we used to write down, and then, or the service department did, write down, and then every few months redo the sales process and redo the guarantee. And so there's an ever continuous teaching of the sales process, so we could get over those things. Different colours for you would have a pram that was fire retardant. So the pram would be blue or green or grey or whatever, but the accessories by law didn't have to have fire retardancy on it. So there was a slightly different shade. The pram would be darker than the accessories. And people used to go wild, and they bought them. So again, we used to walk them through that and show them why the colour was slightly different, because when they got them outside they could see, under the lights in the shop they couldn't see. So we had to do that and get over that problem. So that was the way things went, and people used to come in and throw the pushchair over the counter. And the lads, we had about 7 lads in the service department. Some of them have got children, some of them were young lads. And they were terrific because they'd been trained. They knew that when they ducked and the pushchair went over their head, it wasn't meant to damage them. It was
just a manifestation of some...
So they used to, and we had a system. We had vouchers under the counter. We'd give them a voucher and then go and have a coffee, we'll have a look at your... Go and have a free coffee or a drink, whatever. And then they would, generally, if there was nothing wrong with it, they would spray it with WD-40, make sure nothing squeaked, and go out into the coffee area, into the restaurant, what we've got, and so we've sorted it.
I do wonder that now, because everything is so online based,
They send it back.
That either they send it back, but in terms of having somewhere to go to talk to a human being, to try and vent some of the distress that they might feel having having had a child and having these huge changes in circumstances and all the hormones racing around and when sort of that postnatal depression sets in, to have somewhere to go actually helps, because it's a release, isn't it? But with everything being online now, it becomes so intense. Everything is very, very intense in one space.
Yes, yeah. We had some problems online as well, and we had about 10 girls on the service department in the office. So we had the lads who was mending things and in the warehouse, and we had the service department for the girls, and their instructions were, and they were trained to sort every problem out within 3 emails. So again, it was a constant upgrading of their training and how they did it. So one day the manager came in and said, Neville, because they always used to come to me for the answers, and then we'd redo the way we trained, and said, I can't get over this one. And they were in charge, and everybody who worked for KitKat was responsible. And whatever they said to the customer was fine, it was right. Whether they give them a new product or amended it, whatever, whether it is 5 years old or in the guarantee, they had responsibility. And they could then reprimand themselves if they didn't think at the end of the day it was right. And they used to come and say, oh, well, I've done this and I've done that, but the circumstances was telling me to do it, and that's fine. And that's how they learned their responsibility. They knew they wasn't going to get chastised for doing something probably wrong. Anyway, so I read the emails. This person had, I don't know, sent 16 or 20 emails. So they had a new pushchair. Within a day, they said, it's faulty. So the thing is, they go, it's an online form they should have filled in. What's the make? When did you buy it? Well, we could see when they bought it anyway, but what's the make and what's the problem? Then if it was a folding problem, we would film it and send it to them, or while they was on the phone, we would demonstrate it. But no, the person said, it's fault. Okay, what is it? I'm not telling you. Okay, that's a bit difficult. What we'll do, we'll pick it up and then we'll bring it in tomorrow. We'll look at it. If it needs mending or changing, we'll send it back. No, that's not good enough. So, okay. So the next email was, I will send you a loan and then we'll pick it up and sort it out. I don't want a loan. I don't want another child's been in. Okay, right, okay. We'll send you a new one and we'll pick the one that you just bought 3 days ago. We'll pick that up. No, that's not good enough. Well, what do you want? Well, I'm not saying what I want. It's up to you. I go, okay, well, I tell you what we'll do. And this had gone on for weeks. And the manager had said, well, I tell you what we'll do. We'll take it back and give you your money back. No, I want it. Okay, we'll send you a new one. Pick it. No, you won't. Right, I tell you what we'll do. We'll credit it. You can have it. Because it was taking far too much time up of the team, because they'd all be asking, well, what do I do with this person? We'll give you it. No, I don't want that. So they printed all the emails off and said, can you sort it? Well, I couldn't sort it because they couldn't sort it. So I wrote to this person and I said, I'm dealing with this problem now. I've printed off all your emails and now I'm reading them. I'm in the smallest room of my house and now I'm going to put the whole episode behind me. And so I've dealt with your complaint and that's it. Never heard anything. So that stopped her. But that was a rare occasion. That was one in 30 odd years that we had that. And what I'd explained previously, just a few minutes ago, was you may get one a month, maybe 2 if you was unlucky, but gradually it phased out because we was blocking each problem we would block with the way we sold. And the husband would probably be there going, I told her. But we go, don't worry about it. Just have a coffee. Don't worry about it. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in retail, and especially in pram shops. So it's one of those things. We said it was temporary, which it
usually is.
I believe it is, and we had 120 staff in the end,
Mm.
but we saw it with our own people,
Mm.
and someone would come in and say, "Don't talk to me because I'm temporarily insane," because they had an understanding. They kind of knew what was happening to themselves.
I think as well, there's so many stories, aren't there, about like equipment, when equipment doesn't work, and I say that with inverted commas, and that because people have got this new baby which they are responsible for, and they get terrified.
Yes.
And of course, that's all heightened by the depression.
The light switch doesn't work.
Yeah.
Call an electrician, and he comes along and says, "Well, it's your bulb."
Yeah.
You
So
know,
it's like everything gets very magnified.
Yes.
And overblown, and it's, you know, they go, you go to the first person in the firing line.
Yes. So I think with the training, we didn't lose the staff that we was losing beforehand, and
Well, as a result of the conflict.
oh yes, because people say, "I
Getting
don't come
upset.
to work to have this conflict and be abused for no reason whatsoever. I haven't done anything wrong, and so I will go to another place where we don't serve that kind of customer, you know, or whatever." And so therefore it was a big problem to us, because you'd spend months training somebody just to leave, and it wasn't really our problem. So it was our problem when they left, so we had to solve those problems. That's what I'm saying. And whether the big multi chains, you know, stores can do that, I don't know, but it would be very wise to do so. And it retains your customer as well if you've got an understanding. So you're not in conflict. You're not shouting at the person who's shouting at you, which is a job for most people not to shout back.
Okay. Super. Okay.
So I don't know, but can't think of anything else. But no doubt, you know, if you ask me any more questions, I might.
No, that's fine. That's brilliant. That's really good insight from the other point of view, actually, in terms of you know how it affects your business as well, because you know it's an important emotional distress issue for a lot of women, and it can be quite serious at times, but at the same time it's important that they continue on their life and continue to live their day-to-day life. So it's, you know, to have an understanding that people are out there who understand what they're going through and can accommodate that accordingly.
Yes.
When they, you know, to be perfectly honest, they don't always have to, is a really important point. And also just to destigmatise the whole thing as well. That it's not, it's perfectly
It's life.
normal. It's perfectly normal. It's
It
life,
is.
and that you know, you don't know whether you're going to go down that route or not.
Yes, it's just like, and I've just thought of something else. It's not only, okay, it's ladies that get what you've said is postnatal depression. Ladies get that, but also I've seen lots and lots of men who have they probably call it a midlife crisis, where they get more and more responsibility, and I'm only talking from our own business. So they go up the ladder, they're getting more and more responsibility, and the company's relying on them more. And there is a tipping point, whereas somebody could do the job perfectly well and they took something else on. Then they took something else, and it goes on and on and on. And then they're expected, or they say they want to be the manager, whatever, that department. Then they have 4, 5, 6 people under them, and they're not trained to handle people. So they know their job, they're really good at it, so you promote them because they want a promotion, but then they're not a trainer. Although they can be trained, they're not able to train. And then there's a tipping point where they go temporarily insane and they walk off the job, go away, sometimes come back in 2 weeks, sometimes in 2 hours, but they can't cope. And we had to try and recognise this and and then it happens with all of the staff. And one of the things that we put in place, and we organised, that every single person would only have one manager or boss, whatever you want to call it. They would only be responsible to one person.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a general manager who was responsible to us. Then he had 6 managers that was responsible to him. Then each of those managers had anything up to 40, from 2 or 3, like in the accounts department, to maybe 40 people in the warehouse. So nobody could leapfrog and go to someone else, a different manager. No manager could go to a team of people. They'd have to go through their manager.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it was kind of chaos until we put that into place, because people go, oh, I've got 6 managers, they're all telling me what to do, and I don't know what to do first, then I get into trouble, and all this kind of stuff happens. And then when you realise somebody is on the edge of tipping over, you go, this is not right. And this is all to do with building a business, because it was okay, well, you've got 15 people, so you've got 15 people, you've got a manager of the warehouse and a manager of the shop floor, but you could actually go and tell people what to do. Then I realised one day you can't. You've got to go through the managers, because it's their responsibility. And the managers then have to learn that. They can't go to another manager's team and start telling them what to do. So when you're small, you can, because you're helping. And when you're bigger, you're hindering. So it works in the same. So this temporarily insane thing wasn't for just customers who come in and went wild. It was for everybody, including me. So, and I've been temporarily insane.
So do you get
a lot of times.
Do you get 3 strikes and then you're out?
I'll tell you what, I would have been out years ago if I only got 3 strikes. People were very, very good to me. Give me 3 strikes a day.
I do think that there's a strong, what's the word? There's a strong argument for actually building people up mentally and emotionally in order to survive that kind of, because I don't think we realise how much pressure people can go through during a typical working day, and then they've got all of their private, domestic pressures piling on top of them. And with just a little bit of training and a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of skill set, you can actually make people a lot stronger. It's a bit like working out in the gym.
Yes, we learned very soon after starting business and employing people that you're not just employing the person, their partner has got a voice, and their mother or father have got a voice.
And
So
their
you
children have got voices.
so
They've got very loud voices.
So you're dealing with not just one person, you're dealing with a whole family who's got something to say. And I'm writing a new book. It's called The Fleas That Jumped Higher, and it's about a school curriculum and how it affected me with dyslexia and ADHD, and being on the fringe of the normal, what they class as the normal, and they don't teach stuff in school. Like, kids used to come out of school, come and get a job, and they hadn't got a clue of what was going on, what business was, the slightest clue about business, or their wages, or their time, or what they had to do. And there's a lot of things that are missing in the school curriculum. There is, and especially for people who are they've got skills but they don't fit into the normal of the curriculum. There should be more. So that is very interesting, and we've taken our own experiences and trying to help people. And then when it goes into the workplace, people don't know how to deal with people who are slightly different, and that's something in kiddie care, which how we retained the staff like for 20 years and stuff like that. It was because we recognised that people were special, and just because they couldn't communicate with the people, and well, they wouldn't be on the shop floor, you know, or if they couldn't count, they wouldn't be in the warehouse, but they may be able to do videos and training and stuff like training videos, for instance, showing how to fold and unfold a pushchair, or they could do things, or they could do accountancy, but they wouldn't speak to anybody. So we recognised what they were good at and channeled them into that department, whatever department it was. So,
but that normal thing, that's. I mean, it's a really interesting topic. Anyway, it's a whole different thing. But it's true in terms of, you know, who is it that actually stipulates what normal is and what normal isn't.
yes,
Because it doesn't actually exist. We're all completely and utterly different in
Yes.
many ways.
there should be many tick boxes,
Yeah.
many normal boxes, lots and lots of different normal boxes. You can't say somebody is not where they did before, and I still think they do now. And I like the saying, if you judged a fish by its ability to climb a tree, then that fish would think it's stupid for the rest of its life. And I was the fish being told that I was stupid. And when I left school, then I started learning. But it takes years and years and years of to get out of that thing about you're stupid.
Yeah,
So,
it's a self-esteem mindset thing, isn't it?
Yes.
But it's quite entrenched until you understand that actually it's not. But
Yes.
it is quite entrenched.
yes, so there we are. So hopefully that'll be coming out soon.
Yeah. So what's it called? These.
It's called The Fleas That Jumped Higher.
So where did the title come from?
Zig Ziglar, a mentor of mine, who's sadly died a few years ago, an American speaker, he described fleas and a flea circus. And if you want to train a flea, and I put this down to school, then you get these fleas and you put them in the jar, put the lid on, and they hit their head, they're jumping, just like kids. They'll jump, and they're hitting their head on the lid. But then after a few days, you can't hear them. And I always say in my speeches, because they're dead. No, they're not dead. They've just trained just to jump short of the lid. So you take it off and they can't jump out because they're trained. And that's how you train a flea. That's how you train a child. And then they, for the rest of their lives, they don't want to jump higher because they've been trained not to. So so you go to school to work, to be there for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, so that you, after 10 years, you know you've got to go somewhere to work to get. So you know you're going to work for 8 hours a day, but they don't let you jump any higher, and that's what they've done. Like the elephant has a chain round its leg and a stake in the ground when it's a baby, and then when it gets older you could put a bit of stick in the ground and a string. Although that elephant could pull that out easy, it can't because it's been trained, and that's how we're trained. And I was always thought that I was trained as gun fodder for the next war. You know, I was born in 1950, so you know the 2 wars previous, and I was trained for that. And the best thing at school that I didn't get an award for it, but I should have done, was picking up stones off the playing field while the other kids were playing football. Because I was there, you know, I couldn't read or write. There was the fat kid, there was the kid with the limp, there was the Borstal boy that had come back to school for a few weeks, and there was, you know, all that kind of people that we pushed the cart and threw the stones in because we was the outcast. We would never get picked for the team. But it certainly taught me how to keep a clean building site. Yes.
Yeah, I understand that.
So it's, things always teach you, but at the time, you know, you just wanted to run away.
Yeah, well, I was the one that was shivering in the corner of a hockey field. That was me, because I never got picked for the sports, and I actually spent my whole childhood thinking I was rubbish at sport.
Yeah.
You know, it's
And whatever you can believe and conceive, you achieve. So you achieve being rubbish at that because it's been fed into you. Every hour of every day, that's fed into you. And people don't realise about children what they're feeding into their minds. And like up to 7 years old, they say, give me a child until they're 7, I'll give you the man. It's true. Whatever you feed into that child's mind, it'll be there forever. And it's a dreadful thing to try and get over and to try and break out from that mindset.
Yeah, it is, and it also depends very much on the child's own environment and culture and the family that they grow up in as well. And certainly with regards to the mental health, a lot of the time when people are diagnosed, because they have a diagnosis, then it makes them feel justified and validated for feeling the way that they're feeling, because they can hang it onto a theoretically biomedical hook, which gives them the almost like an excuse not to then push themselves through to actually get over it.
Yes, whereas they could go the opposite way and prove that they are, worth something, or prove that they can get over.
Exactly, and equally with the addiction model as well. A lot of people think that by hanging too much on the addiction hook, that it gives them the excuse to continue antisocial behaviours or whatever, when actually it's not the addiction which is the problem, but it's the behaviour behind the addiction. And it's again, it comes back to that not being normal thing.
I put on the front of my book, if I can remember it, I can't see one here, but the ADH and the dyslexia was an advantage. It gave me the get up and go to prove that I could do the same things. And I think you have to really concentrate on those things. Then you get better. I still can't spell, it's like, but there you are. I've got Dawn across here that can help me.
Well,
and my wife.
Got spell checkers now, haven't they?
Well, he doesn't understand. A lot of the spell check doesn't understand what I'm trying to write. But I say with Marilyn and Dawn, and then I'm always putting it into the phone and saying, how do you spell this? And but get over it.
Excellent. So when's the book out? A little while yet.
Hopefully in the next couple of months. I keep remembering things and keep rewriting it, and
well, you have to save them for the third book after that, don't you? Excellent. Neville, thank you very much for speaking to me again.
You're welcome.
That's been really interesting. Thank you.
Hope it helps.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.